Online, of course, is where you find the most singles. That's where a lot of the vetting has to happen as well, because not everyone is emotionally available, because that's what you can't discern from the heart perspective. You won't see that on people's dating profiles. I know when I was in that needy space of wanting to be liked, where I would do anything to be liked, even though that person wasn't a fit for me. I just wanted that reflection that I'm still likable, lovable.
So there's also that, like knowing who I was, so who I am, and then also more of my values. And so there is some strengths about, going through a divorce, which is really tough, and then wanting to find a mate or a partner or a friend, whatever, is because you do know yourself better.
If you go on more than 3 dates, you're not actually doing the job of discerning if they're a good fit. Loneliness is the pull to get out of the house. And I think that's important, because without feeling that, there wouldn't be a drive to change. If we chase the chemistry, which I did in my first relationship, it was hot, it was fire, but it burned really hot too when I got hurt.
Welcome to Season 2 of the Just Separated podcast. I'm Karen Oman, a thanatologist, grief counselor, divorce strategist, and co-author of the Just Separated workbook. I help people navigate the emotional, legal, and practical challenges of divorce, including high conflict and narcissist relationships. Each week, I am joined by expert guests who share guidance, tools, and strategies so you can move forward with clarity, confidence, and resilience. Follow Just Separated and join us as we explore the many layers of divorce. Subscribe so you never miss an episode. Welcome to the Just Separate podcast. I'm your host, Karen Oman, co-founder of Divorce Workshop. And today we're going to talk about love after divorce, the real guide to midlife singles. And our expert guest is Krysia Szyszlo. Krysia is a strategic dating coach and creator of the 3-date method. After the heartbreak of a devastating betrayal ended her marriage, she spent over 15 years diving deep into what truly makes a healthy, lasting relationship. With a background in psychology and training from top coaching programs, Krysia developed a proven system to help midlife singles spot the right matches faster and avoid another heartbreak. Krysia, welcome to the Just Separate podcast.
Oh, thank you, Karen. It's such a pleasure to be here and to help your clients navigate this challenging time.
Well, it's great to have you on. So I wanted to start off by saying, when you get back into dating after divorce in midlife, it feels completely different than it did when you were younger.
Because it is.
Yeah, because I remember my confidence was low. I was more nervous, and I was a little bit lost and scared, actually, to be honest. So what do you see as some of the biggest challenges for midlife divorcing singles to get back out there?
The biggest challenge is the blow to our self-esteem, I think, is that I know I was there too. I mean, I didn't know how to navigate it anymore. We weren't in our 20s anymore when that happened, when I was single again, when I became single. I don't like to call it divorced because it seems to have a stigma. I like to use the word when I became single. It just sounds so much better. I was quite needy as well. I wanted to be loved and appreciated and seen and all those wonderful things. And when that chasm happened, that divorce, that separation, that where two of us have to find ourselves again. And who am I again? Did you go through that too? Like, who am I?
Yeah, I had quite low self-esteem. Another thing I want to mention is I'm sure it's also common, is I was scared on who I was going to attract in dating.
Why was that?
I don't know, because I had married a more of a tough person, like more of a high conflict personality, and I did not want to attract the same type of person. So I remember saying, when I started dating, I said I was kind of worried that I was going to attract the same person, right? Where I'm always doing the people pleasing and they're always taking.
Gotcha.
So That was kind of my worry. And I've heard it from others as well. So I'm not sure if you've heard that as well.
Well, I love that you saw your pattern. A lot of people don't. They may have to date a few people to see that they keep attracting the same person. And that's the good thing, is that when you notice first, then you go, "Oh, then I could change it. Then I could do something about it." And it may not be that you're over functioning. That's what I call it, over functioning. And women tend to do that more than men, over function. Um, but that's not always the case. But the point is, you recognized it. And that's step one. And then you could change it. And then once you start realizing what you really need, what you didn't have in the prior relationship, those things that broke you apart, those are more aha moments for yourself to note. Oh, this is something that I really needed that I didn't get there. And I didn't flourish in this relationship. And we couldn't navigate it because we were so different on that specific value or that specific need, or I didn't know how to ask for what I needed. Because, we're not mind readers. Those communication skills need to be sharpened throughout your whole relationship, everywhere, every relationship you have. And those are skills we could build during this time of finding ourselves, of rebuilding after loss or divorce or separation. And that is the big foundation so that you can thrive again and be confident because you've learned from your past. You're sure you might be fumbling again, but that's okay. Like little kids, they take little baby steps, they fall on their bum and they get right back up. And then we can learn from those kids. We don't have to take it personally. I think that's another piece. I don't know about you, Karen, but I felt broken. I felt really broken. Like, wow, I'm a failure. Those could be some things that we think about too, but that's not true. We're not. We're lovable. And out in the dating world or all those other singles out there, they just want to love and be loved. And that compassion piece really helps us see that the right person will be a good fit for us. But having to recognize who that right person is, well, that's the next trick.
Well, that's where you're the expert, right? Because it is not an easy thing to do, right? To also, when you're not feeling very good about yourself, so you have to work on yourself.
Mhm.
Um, you're bringing a lot of that to your dating world too, right? So, do you understand what I mean? So, if you're not feeling it, if you haven't done some of the work and relearning who you are, and you bring some of that to your dating, maybe you're not attracting what you want to attract. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
it sure does. I know when I was in that needy space of wanting to be liked, where I would, do anything to be liked, even though that person wasn't a fit for me. I just wanted that reflection that I'm still likable, lovable. And I don't want anyone to turn into a pretzel for that, because that's another thing someone might do as a pattern. They might be turning into pretzels. And that's not how you stand tall in yourself and proud in who you are and know that you're lovable just the way you are.
I love the pretzel thing. It's almost like what we call the people pleaser, right? It's like you'll turn yourself into so many, whatever that person wants, right? And then it's exhausting. And it's exhausting in relationships, but it's also exhausting in the dating world because you can't do it all the time, right? Like you can do a little bit, and we know relationships take work and stuff, but turn yourself into a pretzel. It's a really good metaphor of what not to be.
Mhm. So when you're ready, I know right now you might be listening to this podcast saying, "Oh, I'm not ready," or maybe someday I'll be ready to date. But this is your time to be by yourself and find yourself again and know what's so important when you do decide to move forward. Now, just let me remind you all that dating is only, I don't know, a couple hundred years old in our culture. Some cultures don't even date. They're still set up. So our bodies, our chemistry doesn't understand what dating is because our primitive brains think, oh, we're going to mate. our still primitive brains override our thinking brain. And that's why we fall in love or fall in lust. Let's say to use lust, because the chemicals in our body, it's a drug, that love drug, that high, and we really want it. We crave it. Um, and then when you're separated, that drug is still in our system, and we still want to attach to that person because they were the supplier of the drug. Let's say like cocaine. We know that human being, that person supplied me that high. I want it. I want it. And when that withdrawal happens, it's stronger because we want it bad. We want it back. So there is a little of addictive quality when we do separate. And also when we do start dating again, you'll feel it again, but don't let it override your thinking brain.
Yeah, I just want to mention there, we call it in the grief field, both from divorce and from grief, death loss, is detachment distress, right? So when our attachment systems are kind of up in arms, right? It's like our foundation's lost. And even if you've left the marriage, you can still have detachment distress because for years it's in your brain. The pathways are in your brain. Like you're saying, it's like an addiction, but it's also wired in your brain and your body. So we also grieve physiologically and biologically. On top of that, we have the stress of going through a divorce. And stress, increases our adrenal glands, our cortisol levels, exhaustion, our hypovigilance. So it's such a push pull thing. If you think of the yin and yang thing, right, which I'm sure you know about, it's like you don't want to talk to them anymore because they've hurt you, but you want to talk to them because you miss them so much. So that happens to a lot and people don't understand that pull and push and pull that happens, especially after divorce and in death loss. It's really strong.
Wow. Thank you for explaining that. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, when you are ready to start dating, once you've done the evaluation of the loss, of the grief, of knowing what you do need going forward, those will be on your list. Those things that you didn't have, those things that you didn't thrive with. And that's why I came up with this 3-date method, is that I have to tell you, when I became single, I went on over 100 dates, first dates, I'll call that first dates, 170 telephone dates over 4 years. Okay. I did this over 4 years. And I came up with this system because I realized my first partner was mostly about chemistry and heart. But there's 3 things that drive our attraction. And the one we all recognize is the chemistry. The chemistry is the heat, the fire, where you really want to connect with someone it's almost animalistic. We can't really control a lot of the things that we're attracted to, whether it be their smell or their look. Then the second thing is our heart. We need our heart to be in the relationship too, where it thrives, where it's seen and heard and understood and cared for and cherished. That heart needs a voice. It has its needs too. And then, of course, there's the head. The head is what's important on paper. Maybe you want someone who's educated or someone with a certain financial assets or a drive to have family. Those things are important on paper. But those 3 have to be all at the same level. They have to be equal, because if we chase the chemistry, which I did in my first relationship, it was hot, it was fire, but it burned really hot too when I got hurt, went through the betrayal. So the next relationship, which was long term, was all about the head. I flipped. Do you see the difference? I flipped. I went, oh no, I'm not going to chase chemistry as much. But I went for the head, and he was an architect. He was brilliant. We had great conversations, but the heat was okay, but my heart was shriveling. I wasn't seen. I wasn't heard. I didn't feel cherished the way that I couldn't thrive there. So that wasn't a fit. So I came up with this head, heart, and heat method where those 3 have to be at equal standing, at least an 8 out of 10 on all to score before you even commit to someone or become what I would say exclusive. Let's not say commit, let's say exclusive. I don't want to scare people who are just coming out of separation. So that system, it's a 3-date method also with the head, heart, and heat. But after 3 dates, if those don't align, those values that we discern, you and I are very different. then
So
don't have a fourth date.
why did you pick three? And I just want to mention this three
Mhm.
date thing. I'm thinking of how many of us who are divorcing or divorced used all three. I'd like everyone to sit there and think, like, because I'm thinking when you said I'm thinking, oh, I I probably had two out of the three. I didn't even think about the third one. Like I think I used the head, but and maybe the heat, but not the other one. Like I'm just thinking, like I'm just wondering how many of us actually used all. And what I really like this method is also how they have to be like they can't be a four, right? You want them all to be kind of all equal in their. But why did you pick three, like three dates?
Ah, because in dating takes a lot of energy, and I don't want people to overcommit to somebody, because if you date longer, let's say, let me just give you an example. We could become attached to the idea of somebody, and if we don't discern using our scorecard or our playbook that I create for you, if you were my client, if you go on more than 3 dates, you're not actually doing the job of discerning if they're a good fit. And we have a whole system on being able to vet your person over the phone, on dates, over video calls, to ensure that they're at least on the same trajectory with you. And when you decide to be exclusive with someone, that's when we can get really enmeshed, and we don't want that to happen. We want to be able to let them go sooner than later, so that you do find the right fit and they will find the right fit for them.
I hear
So
it's oh,
go ahead.
sorry. I hear
It's
it's pretty common that it's just people just go on one date and that's it. So one date you're saying isn't really enough to get to know all the three method, right? So that's why we just don't do one, you do three. Is that
right.
correct?
If there's a real deal breaker, because we discern which ones are your deal breakers, then it's a total stop. No second date, no third date. However, my method always is a slower method, in that you don't go to a first date in meeting in real life until you do some vetting over the phone. Have a telephone date, have a video date to ensure that they actually look like their picture.
Now
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you like how do people in midlife date? Is it a lot online? Do they use services? Is it friends and family networking? Is it your friends? Like how is it organically? Like what is the most common way that midlife divorced people can find love again?
I would say all of the above. There's dating in real life, which are the skills of connecting with people, saying hello, flirting skills, and online. Online, of course, is where you find the most singles. That's where a lot of the vetting has to happen as well, because not everyone is emotionally available, because that's what you can't discern. From the heart perspective, you won't see that on people's dating profiles. You'll see a list of from the head. Oh, I do this, I play tennis, I have 2 kids. It's all the list part, but you can't discern the heat and you can't discern the heart.
So that's why you wanted to talk on the phone and then follow up by even online and then follow up by meeting, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
Is
Correct.
an online app that you prefer?
There are many out there, and I depends on the client's age group. There's some for younger people, some for seniors. What I recommend is one paid app like Match.com, for example, because you could have a longer bio where you could actually put some of your heart in there, or some of your values where you really stand out, and not just a list like a shopping list or a garage sale on your front lawn. You actually want to write something about who you're looking for, what you have to offer, because you know what? A dating profile is marketing. People are swiping on, and then there's the apps which are on the phone, and those are swiping left and right. They don't have a lot in them, and they're mostly pictures. Meaning, if your first photo doesn't look great, you're going to be a swipe left, which means I don't want to deal with you, basically. And it's like shopping. Unfortunately, it diminishes our value because people only see a photograph, and it's very hard on our self-esteem because we may not get matches based on your profile photo or a small little bio that might be a paragraph long. So that's why I recommend a paid one, which has a paywall where you can feel safer because there's not as many scammers, whereas the swiping apps might be more scamming. So there is some safety. So is there one? There are many, and it depends on your age. I have some clients who are in their senior years who are over 50, and there's apps for them, and there's some for younger folks. So I can't really recommend just one for you. Just do your research. Yeah.
So as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, as I was unsure and I was nervous,
Hmm.
and I want to bring this up is you have a lot more going on in midlife than you do when you're 20s or teens or 20s. You know, I have two children. I had a difficult ex. It was complicated and in some ways a little bit more messy, right? To be honest, it's a bit more, your focus can't be just solely on that person. Because you also, even if your children are adults or you have older adult parents, whatever you're that have to be looked after. So there is an element that I wanted us to talk about that because it's true. I mean, it is for me. I remember going, oh my goodness, like I have a dog, I have a cat, and I have two girls that are primarily with me. That's who I am. Right. So how do you talk about that with your clients? Like, and am I the only one that felt that way, or is it pretty common?
You're definitely not the only one. We all have responsibilities. Let's say that. Because in midlife, you might be in mid career, you're building your career. Your focus is on, you might be building up into the ladder of management. So there's so much more responsibilities. And then your children, if you have children, how are you going to time manage between work, life balance, and how am I going to find time for dating? A neighbor of mine, I just spotted them on the street. We said hello, and they were, when I first met them, they were married to different people, and now they're together in a blended family. And they worked it out, but they had to see each other on the weekends when the children weren't around. And I think as we get older, we have that maturity to understand that, to still make it work. Um, for example, my partner, he has a 96-year-old mother in his care in his home. And I'm getting married next month and moving into that household. Although he's got caregivers coming in, she's still in there. So we accept that. I don't call it baggage. Let's just call it, we're traveling light with carry on. We deal with our stuff. We are mature. We deal with it. And I hope that's what you look for, someone who's stable and mature and understanding. So if you do have children, I do recommend dating people who also have children. That
Yeah,
might be easier to understand.
yeah, and that comes with like there's pros and cons to that, right? Because
Hmm.
if you blend in, that can be, that can be challenging, and you have to take your time. But is pacing something also that's important, or do you like, I work in the grief field, both in divorce as well as grief, like death loss, and the pacing. To be honest with you, with both of them, has been all over the place. I see some that jump right in, and in both divorce and in death loss, and then I see some that are like, never. I'm never going to do any of it again. I'm not going to. Uh, and I think about my mother. She divorced when she was 28, and we were very, very young. I was a baby, and my sister was maybe 4. And she dated, but she never ever uh, was exclusive. Really, I think maybe exclusive with one, but then that was it, and that was until she died. Nobody. So you look at that story, and it makes me sad. But
Hmm.
then I look at another story where I had one of my clients within 5 weeks was already exclusive with somebody else. And so, what are your thoughts on that?
Um, I think some people were so ready because emotionally they have left the prior relationship, I'm talking in regard to divorce or separation, they emotionally already pulled themselves out and they were already getting ready. Whereas the one who has been left, that's more of a shock and they have to process. So there's that piece. The other piece is like your mother, she may not have had um, the training on how to date, and her past may have traumatized her. And she said, never again, never, never, never again. I also have clients who say, I never want to get married. And I look at them and I say, well, you don't have to get legally married. You could just have a cohab agreement and know that you're covered. So you don't have to be dragged through the courts without one. So, for example, I'm in the process of doing a prenup with my fiance. And we're totally upfront. We're both mature. We all have assets. And it's a really nice thing to have in a mature discussion, because if you can't have these conversations at the beginning when you're dating, how are you going to have a safer sex conversation? How are you going to have anything challenging about your kids or how to navigate some difficulties that you have between you? These are all skills that you can learn, you know.
I also want to talk about, do you find there are, differences between, because you work with men and women.
Mhm.
So are there differences between how men date midlife to how women approach midlife dating?
I have seen a difference. I noticed that men often want to have a romantic woman, a romantic interest in their life. Women, if they have children, they may be young and they have a lot of attention on their children because they're nurturers. I don't know if that's completely true, statistically true, but I do find that men are getting out there sooner than women are. Mhm.
Yeah, it's the same in the death loss of a spousal loss. They get out much sooner than women tend to.
Yeah.
So I think women, I think it's been well researched in the death field. Women do grief better. We have better support systems. Men don't generally have the same type of support systems as women do. So their main support, even if they were left in their divorce, is that wife. And if that wife died, that was their main support system. So they're searching for those type of support systems, and that's that romantic partner that can help fill up that huge hole that is missing either from divorce or from death loss.
And also in regard to men, they don't have that social circle where they can talk about their feelings as openly. There's still this stigma that men don't cry, stiff upper lip, I'll just push through it. But when they come home and open that door and it's empty and quiet, there's nobody there except the spinning in the head of, oh my God, I'm lonely. What am I doing here? How do I find any friends? Because you know what? Everyone's busy. That's the other thing. At midlife, after you're 20, you're out of your college, you're out of university, where most people were single. Now, where do you go? Where do you meet these people? Well, you got to rebuild yourself, find where those interests are, go find social circles, go to meetups or anywhere, whether it's your church or your sports group or your tennis club, and start socializing. Yoga class. I have a client who says, oh, I've been going to yoga for years. And I said, have you ever asked anybody for a smoothie or a drink afterwards? Oh, I never thought about that. Start
Yeah,
reaching out. Mhm.
yeah, it is one of the things that I've had to talk about over the years as well with my clients is to take those baby steps, because they are baby steps, right? If you haven't been used to it, if you've been married 20, 15, 20, 25 years, 30 years even, like you're not really used to having to do that again, even if you were the one that was detaching before, right? It's still, you still have to take those first steps and getting out there again. And that's not always easy to do, especially as you said, when you're midlife, you're working probably a lot. You've got demands from your senior parents if they're still around, and if you have kids that are growing into adulthood. So you're kind of like So it's all, again, it's about self-care, right? Making sure that you prioritize yourself as well.
Well, it's also about boundaries too. Setting boundaries with work, setting boundaries with the kids, saying, okay, this time I'm not available. Have a do not disturb on your bedroom door and let them respect that's your boundary. You deserve that time, downtime. Um, those are important things too. Hmm.
Boundaries are really important. I want to ask you, so we talked a little bit about how loneliness is what we see, right? You can be very, because it's chemical, but it's biological, but also, how do you know if someone's just lonely and wanting to date to actually being ready to date?
Loneliness is the pull to get out of the house. And I think that's important because without feeling that, there wouldn't be a drive to change,
Good.
you know? Uh, so I don't see, you'll know when you're ready for a real relationship and you don't have to rush. I mean, honestly, you could just go out and date and say, I'm looking for companionship. I want someone to go to the movies with. I was cleaning my house because I'm moving to move in with my fiance when we're getting married, and I found this really awesome poster by a gentleman. He's European, and he had a picture of a kid licking an ice cream cone, and he was saying, "Gentleman, European gentleman over 50 seeking gelato strolling buddy." Seeking a woman for to go out for gelato. I guess he's Italian or something, but he wasn't looking for like, oh, I need a relationship. He was just looking for companionship. And I thought that was really sweet.
Hmm. Yeah, I think we have to remember it doesn't always have to be. You don't have to go full in on I'm going to marry this next person, or this is the love of my another love of my life, or whatever, right? You can just approach it as in, like, I want to make some good friends too.
And then when you're meeting these new people, you can find out, oh, I realized that person isn't a fit for me because of X. And then you note that make that on your list. Okay. And as I'm seeing other people, oh, their energy's too high for me. So I need someone more middle energy because I'm an introvert, for example. And that person was so extroverted. They wanted to party all night. And that was just, whoa, overwhelming for me. No, oh, no, note to self. Okay. So just test the waters and explore because this is your time to explore. Like, who am I now in this body, in this time? What haven't I done? Like, pull out that bucket list. Make new friends during that bucket list search or checklist. I know one woman, she's traveling the world and she's going with a group all the time and she's meeting new friends. And it's great because she's finding out what's important to her. So this is your time. So I definitely don't rush because this is great exploration time for you.
Yeah, I want to kind of say that too, is like, there's some negativity that we think about when it comes to midlife dating. We talked about our self-esteem. We talked about, the small carry on you have, basically the luggage you're bringing within, and how much more complex. But there are some real positive things, right, about being midlife and dating, such as I kind of started knowing who I was more. I had lost myself in my marriage, and that's very common. And so I lost myself. I came to becoming who I actually was. So there's also that, like, knowing who I was, who I am, and then also my more of my values. And so there is some strengths about, you know, going through a divorce, which is really tough, and then wanting to find a mate or a partner or a friend, whatever, is because you do know yourself better. But what are your thoughts on that?
Could you say that one more time in a different way?
So you when you're dating, like when you're we talked a lot about the negatives of midlife, but there are some positives. Like for me, I started knowing who I was again and what my values and what I wanted as in characters, right? So we talk about the negative, but there's some positive. So I just want to know what your feeling about that was.
Right. So thank you for that reframe. I remember taking myself out on dates. So that's super positive. big things like, oh, I'm going to go to the movies by myself. And then I started going to, film festivals and I had no problem. Okay, check. Take myself out for dinner. I didn't sit at a table alone. I figured out this trick in Europe. I would sit at the bar with the bartender and order my meal there so I'd have a companionship so I didn't feel like such a loser. Right? We don't want to feel like a loser. Um, and I would choose to do that. And then people would come to the bar. I'd have people to chat with. It was really social. And I realized I got over my fears of going out alone, doing things on my own, going to parties, going to a festival, going down to the city hall for some big celebration and being in a swarm of people. And although, yes, sometimes I wanted to go over my shoulder and share with somebody if it were my partner and say, hey, did you see that? But I was that one. I was my own partner at that time. And it felt really, really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. It's a really good tip, actually, right?
Mhm.
Because it kind of is, for many, it's intimidating, especially those first times you go out at an event or you go to a family thing, even, right? And you're going solo now, and so that takes a while to get comfortable with, but after a while, it gets easier and easier. You have to keep doing it.
Yeah, and you're not a loser. You're not. You're not broken. You're not you're not dysfunctional at all. It's just that we need to learn how to date effectively because nobody teaches us. Just like in school, nobody teaches us how to have difficult conversations, how to deal with our emotions, how to calm ourselves, how to self soothe, how to have financial conversations, how to build our wealth over time. These things, which are so vital in how we live, no one teaches us that at all. I think that's really sad. We have to learn that outside of schools. Our parents aren't going to teach us unless they're great parents and taught us all those things. Most of us don't have that. So we have to learn to reparent ourselves, cherish the little child in us who might be sad, who's feeling lonely. And that's our job as the big person now to take care of our little kids inside of us, our little 2-year old or our 6-year old who's demanding attention, or the teenager who wants to act out. They're all inside of us, but they're looking to us as the adult now to cherish us, to love us, and to self soothe and say, hey, I got this. Trust me, I got this. Right?
Yeah, wise words. It's true. We've been never taught how to date properly or how to get the right couple. What we looked at as growing up at what we needed was probably some stuff that we needed as a kid that we weren't getting, and then that's where we went to our partner and they were supposed to fill all our needs, and that's not what it's all about. And so that's common too. I hear a lot. So before I ask the last question, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I just think that just be gentle. Like, this is a tender time. Um, I wouldn't suggest jumping into anything exclusive just yet, but definitely if you're ready to start dating, test the waters, try it out. And when you're ready, you know that I'm here to help you.
Yeah, for me, when I would go online and then take break,
Yeah.
then go back online and then take a break. I couldn't do it because it was overwhelming for a while, and then I would take a break. So that's also a good thing. You can go on for a bit, take a break. It doesn't have to be all done all the time, right? You can take breaks. So I ask everyone this last question. For someone who's just separated, whether they left or were left, what advice, sorry, would you give them to help them navigate those overwhelming early days?
Yeah, let yourself cry. Yeah, just let yourself cry. And I know that for me, I actually had to get my tears were below my anger. So I actually got a tennis racket because I had some angry stuff, and I would be whacking the bed until I cried because the hurt was so deep, but it was hidden by my anger. I don't know if you could relate to that at all, but by being betrayed, by losing the dream of this beautiful relationship, which I thought was going to be forever. That loss, there's anger there too, but I had to get to the grief underneath that anger. And that's when the tears could come. So be with yourself and be gentle. Yeah, you got this. And there's people there who love you. Yeah, your friends, your family. Reach out to them too. And it's also nice to have a witness who can just encourage you to whack the bed, whether it be with a pillow or a tennis racket. Even my ex, when I was dating him, we went to a forest and he would pick up a stick from a tree, like a branch, and I would invite him because he had some anger too, and he'd whack the tree trunk, and it felt really good. He goes, "Oh, that felt really good." I go, "Yeah." To have a witness that it's okay. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to have grief. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really well said. There is, for many people, not all, an element of anger that is hiding, that is expressing itself through anger, but really deep at the core of it, it's just full of a lot of pain. So,
Not a pain.
so you have this great method, the three
Date method.
date method. Sorry, and what else do you have, and where can they get in touch with you?
Well, I have a wonderful gift for those who are ready to go online, and that is how to create the best dating profile photos so that you get swiped right on dating apps and not swiped left. And I will give you the link in the Karen. You could have the link for your guests, and that's a great start when you're ready. And then I'm here for you when you're ready to get more serious. I can help you with your profile. I can help you with your head, heart, and heat so that when you are ready, I'll be there for you and the right person will meet you too.
Yeah, I think of if my mom had had you in the 70s, right? Then it might have, she might have been more open to one, understanding herself, and two, figuring it all out more, and maybe have had a good companion for her some of her life. So I wish she had you. So anybody, please talk to Krysia, because I think it's important. We only have one life, right? And just because we divorce doesn't mean our life is over. So thank you very much for coming on, and take care.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Bye-bye. Thanks for joining today's conversation with our divorce expert. Check out the show notes for more about our guests, and don't forget to follow us on Spotify and our YouTube channel at divorceworkshop.ca. We'd love to hear from you. Share your questions, comments, or guest suggestions. And for a complete guide to navigating separation divorce, check out the Just Separated workbook on Amazon. It covers emotions, co-parenting, finances, legal insights, and recovery. A must-have for anyone going through separation or divorce.